How are you guys doing? You look very nervous. That's it. That's the homily for tonight. Thank you, Patricia, for reading with me tonight, and it was great. Reflecting and praying about this particular gospel today, and we are in the middle of Lent. This particular gospel touched me in so many levels, and I also ask many questions. And I want to share you these questions. Why Jesus drawn to this blind man? I know it's a busy street. I don't think that's the only person who needs healing on that particular time. Why this man? What did Jesus see in this particular man that he healed him? And I ask this question because in our gospel story, the very beginning of our gospel, Jesus was only passing by. Something caught Jesus' attention to approach this man, and at the same time, he immediately do something. He spat on the ground, made a clay with the saliva, smeared the clay on his eyes, and ordered the man, go and wash to the pool of Siloam. The Siloam means sent. It's an open area that people see what people do. And it's a teaching moment for Jesus. So Jesus taught the apostles or the disciples or other people what has been done, that this man has been healed. In the gospel readings or the readings of today, the fourth Sunday of Lent, the theme is light. Lent is a time of enlightenment to clear our senses, especially the eyes of faith, to the wonder and greatness of our God through our relationship with one another. Second, also, Lent is a time for us to look and examine ourselves inwardly, to create space for God to work wonders, for us to be healed. Lent is also time for healing and forgiveness. What I learned in these readings and reflection, the encounter between the blind man and Jesus was a process. Healing is a process. And this should be our inspiration to seek Christ more in whatever challenges we have in our lives, in whatever healing we need and ask for. Our gospel reading tells us that Christ is always passing by in our daily lives. I have more questions for you. Do you see him? Or do we ignore Jesus? Or are we just like the Pharisees and the scribes, that we keep questioning God and never acts on it? Jesus was just passing by every day. And I thought about this, my favorite airlines in the world, Southwest Airlines. Every time I board and settled in my seat, especially the A seat, I usually play with my phone, look at my camera, whatever it is, and I will never make an eye contact for the next passenger passing by. Why? Because if I made so, this person will be sitting next to me, and I don't want anybody sitting next to me. It's so childish, but yet I know you are guilty as well. I know this. I've seen this all the time. Eye contacts build relationship. Think about this. When you were first time dating with your spouse, what did you see to her? And you say, she is the one. What did you see with your husband? He is the one. If not, I'm sorry. Think about this also, the Beauty and the Beast. I know some of you watched already, and Belle said, come into the light. I want to see you. For those of you who are in the entertainment business, as directors, cameramen, you have a very specific eye to beauty. And you should be appreciated about that. And that is God's given talent for you to share for us. And thank you very much. When you saw your first child lying on your bed next to you, what did you see? It creates a relationship. And this is what happened to the blind man and Jesus. The story of the blind man can teach us that if we want to see Christ in our lives, we should be the blind man who also trusted Christ completely without hesitation. Just like in our story, the blind man is our story. Sometimes we will have questions and doubts about the presence of our God in our lives. Sometimes our faith will experience ups and downs, but we are invited by Christ to believe and to trust every day. Our faith is our relationships and friendships we have in our lives that cannot remain the same every day, because every day is different in the eyes of God, in the eyes of faith. If you are a husband and a wife, a brother or a sister, religious or a priest, parent or a child, student or a professional, we all hit rough patches, not to crash us, but to challenge us to see things differently and see life in a different perspective. Life challenges can strengthen our faith in God. The man has been blind since birth, but when he let Jesus touch his eyes, he was healed. His eyes of faith was opened. Question for you: did Jesus touch your life every single day? If not, why not? And look for him every single day. Jesus do not do things ordinarily. Yes, he performs miracles and cure peoples, and Jesus needs to gain trust. But for us today, what is it for us today that needs healing? What relationships in our lives that needs to be restored? As I mentioned earlier, healing of any kind involves process, sometimes methods or time. Speaking like a teacher here, our faith is the same. To grow needs process, methods, time, and people. As we pray, as we fast, as we give alms, there's learning involved. We learn about ourselves and we look inwardly what we can do as humans and as Christians. We as people of faith should learn from our journey here on earth so that our works or the works of God might be visible in our daily lives, especially for those who are in need of healing. We can be instrument of healing for others. We can be instrument of forgiveness for others, and we can be channel of peace to others. We are people not for ourselves, but for others. What sins need to be forgiven, and I ask you again, what hopes need to be heard? What healing needs to be happen to you today? Whatever it is, ask God now. And for those of you who know someone needs healing, invite them to come and pray with us. They need our community. They need our support. Like in our first reading, God always looks into our hearts, not in our appearances. As Samuel trusted God, and so the blind man. We can trust our God that meets us where we are and not judging us, but loving us without hesitation, without end. God surely worked in our lives, and we trust that through our efforts to grow in faith, hope, and love, we see Christ in everyone we encounter, because we can be instrument of healing for others, because Saint Francis once said, "Lord, make me an instrument of peace. Where there is hatred, let me sow love. Where there's injury, pardon. Where there's doubt, faith. Where there's despair, hope. Where there's darkness, light. Where there's sadness, joy." And Southwest Airlines says, "Bags fly free." Good afternoon.